Welcome back to Taiwan is Helping on ICRT FM 100, the show where we talk about how Taiwan is assisting other nations, particularly in Latin America, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Ryan Drillsma, and this is the third time we're speaking to someone that works with the Taiwan International Cooperation and Development Fund. Today I'm speaking to Dr. Hsu Kai-Hsiang, who works at the Far Eastern Memorial Hospital. Dr. Hsu, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting me. And how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on the show. Now, other interviewees I've spoken to that do work with the ICDF work directly on projects in Latin America, but as I understand, you're playing an advisory role for the ICDF team in Nicaragua. Could you explain what your work involves?
For the ICDF, they do provide a project manager, which is based in Nicaragua, but our manager is having a background of public health. So when it comes to medical specialties, the ICDF needs more some people with expertise in their project. So sometimes they recruit these experts into the ICDF, but for medical personnel, it may be quite difficult for them to work full time in the ICDF. So we develop a project with a cooperation between the Nicaragua government, the ICDF, and our hospital Far Eastern to being complementary, and we help each other to fulfill their need and the part that they are lacking, and we could fill in that gap. Yeah.
Have you actually been to Nicaragua or other Latin American countries to work directly on projects there?
Okay. In our previous project, we cooperate with ICDF to have chronic kidney disease program in Belize. So I personally stayed in Belize for 1 month. And this time, because the Belize project was quite a success, so the ICDF come to our hospital again. And for Belize program, I'm the first doctor being the Belize. And for Nicaragua, I'm also the first one to help our manager in the Nicaragua.
Okay. As an advisor to ICDF Nicaragua, what have been some of your biggest achievements so far?
Okay, so for this project, we are focused on chronic kidney disease. That is because we all know that there's a lot of infectious disease in either Central America or Africa, some countries, but now we are turning the focus to non-contagious disease. And for those with more severity, we could direct it, see that such as a heart attack, a lung disease, that is quite obvious. But for our kidney disease, it is quite like a silent killer. So the project is focused on kidney disease. And actually, this project is initially initiated by the Nicaragua government. They're already having a project on chronic kidney disease, but because Taiwan possesses the expertise in the kidney disease management, so we participate in the midway, and we do have some function that for those with early kidney disease, usually the patient have no symptoms at all, so they are not aware of it. So the main purpose is to find out those silent patients and intervene early. In earlier stage to prevent further progression. So in this project, we have noticed that in the 2 to 3 year periods, there's a lot more patients with diagnosis of earlier stage of kidney disease, which is not identified previously. And I think that is the main goal of this project, because when the kidney disease progress into a later stage, the medical cost is much higher and it becomes irreversible. So to do in the earlier stage, I think that is very helpful.
Is kidney disease a prevalent problem in Central America?
Yes, certainly. Because there is in the Western Hemisphere or even the whole world, we are facing a increase in diabetes, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, cholesterol, because our diet, our lifestyle. So if you're having more diabetic patients, you will have more kidney disease patients, because diabetes will lead to kidney disease eventually. But on the other hand, for Central American country, they have agriculture, especially in the sugarcane production. And for those agricultural workers, the work environment is not quite good. They may have limited access to water. They may need ingest a lot of painkillers or soda drinks, and also possible environmental exposure, so which may make them especially vulnerable to a kidney disease called Mesoamerican nephropathy. Previously, it was known as a chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology, but with extensive research, we found that there are some environmental factor affecting these Central American countries. So it is present in Belize, but also in Nicaragua and other Central American countries. So kidney disease is really increasing both in the in the urban area and also in the rural area.
Okay. As you mentioned earlier, you've also worked on a chronic kidney disease prevention program in Belize too. Did you face different difficulties in these two countries?
Yes, there are some difficulties because you know that the countries having a diplomatic relationship with Taiwan is usually not an English-speaking country. So they may speak French, and for Nicaragua, it's Spanish. But fortunately, in Belize, they speak proper English. So we can have a lot of communication directly for me with their local doctors, government fluently. But in Nicaragua, you have to rely on the translator to interpret. And so some translators there are good in the language, but they may not have enough medical backgrounds. And for those with medical backgrounds, their language ability is limited. So I think mutual communication is very important to clarify all the details. And on the other hand, that Belize is a relative smaller country compared with Nicaragua. The population in Belize is about 400,000, but for Nicaragua, it's up to 6 million. So it's a big country, and they are already having some project at their own. So we are more like a modification or refinement. As I said, in the midway, not from the beginning, but for Belize is relatively primitive. So we initiate and we determine the direction of the project more easily than Nicaragua, because their local government may have some thoughts of themselves, their own consideration, and we cannot change their policy through the ICDF. Yes.
Right. So we've talked about kidney disease prevention. Are there any other health projects Taiwan is working on in Nicaragua?
Okay. In this aspect, I have discussed with ICDF, and they have replied me that the Nicaragua government, they specifically request the assistance in kidney disease, and we have suggested, would you like us to send other specialties to Nicaragua? But they said that they need kidney doctors. So currently, the kidney project is the main healthcare related program. But I have noticed that because previously the project is only last until maybe the first quarter of 2022, but Nicaragua government thinks that this project is working very well, so they would like to extend it to a second term project.
Okay, that's great. How long do the terms last on the kidney disease prevention programs?
Okay, so usually the project will last about 2 to 3 years, and in the first half, usually the either Nicaragua or in the case of Belize, they send their medical personnel or their governmental personnel to our hospital, and we train them. And in the second half, these we call it the seed doctor. They will go back to their countries, and they may have trained their own trainee in their country. So in that case, we act as a consultant, and we go to the Nicaragua, and we monitor the progression in their local situations. So usually it takes about 2 to 3 years, and we visit their countries about 2 weeks every time. And because we're a lot of kidney doctors in our hospital, so we take turns and last there, and to cooperate with our manager who is staying in Nicaragua continuously. Yes.
Okay, why does Nicaragua and why do other Central American countries need help from Taiwan in particular? Do the medical communities there tend to lack knowledge about kidney disease, and does Taiwan sort of specialize in this area?
Okay. Maybe many people, especially in Taiwan, notice that there are several countries which is having a high prevalence of kidney disease. Probably the highest one may be the United States and Taiwan and Japan. And we are having a lot of dialysis patients. As I mentioned, the early chronic kidney disease, if left untreated, it will progress eventually to an end-stage renal disease. So if you reach end stage, it would be a huge medical cost if you would like to sustain their life with what we call a renal replacement therapy, which is basically an artificial kidney to work as a native kidney do. So the treatment for these artificial kidney or end-stage renal disease, we call it dialysis, it's very expensive. So for Taiwan, United States, and Japan, we are suffering the very high medical costs carrying these end-stage patients. So our government urge our kidney doctors that, we are spending so much money, so you have to do something to prevent this to happen. You have to intervene in the earlier stage. So in Taiwan, after the implementation of this early chronic kidney disease program, we're having the declining of new end-stage patients. So I think this is quite important because in a Central American country, if the patient is having chronic kidney disease and reach the end stage, they may not have the adequate resource to receive a life-saving artificial kidney or dialysis therapy. So I think it's very important for these countries to do earlier and faster to prevent the patient from progression. And that is just what we did in the past 10 years in Taiwan to prevent those earlier patients turns into the later stage.
Okay. You said it's quite difficult to detect when someone has early stage kidney disease. So, how do people get diagnosed with it?
Okay, yes, great. For kidney disease, we have two aspects of examinations because these patients usually have no symptoms at all in their earlier stage. So first, we check their urine because normally the urine is free from any protein or glucose or blood in the urine. So if we found that the urine is with protein inside, we call it proteinuria, we'll know that the kidney is under certain form of injury. And the other function, a main function for a kidney is to excrete toxins. And one of the toxins we utilize clinically is called creatinine. And so we check the blood of the patient, and if they're having an abnormally elevated level of creatinine, we will notice that they're having affected kidney functions. So if we combine these two parameters, the presence of protein in the urine and an elevated creatinine level, which is a toxin, we can diagnose these patients. Because in early stage, if you're having a light proteinuria or only a modest elevation of creatinine, usually the patient have no discomfort at all.
Right, okay. Just moving back to Nicaragua, how do you ensure the local medical community there is able to carry on with the work after your cooperative program finishes?
Yes, I think this is a very important aspect for every project, especially for these healthcare social projects, because every intervention needs to take a long period to have effect. You can notice by the numbers, such as a decrease in the mortality or a decrease in the end-stage patients. So I think in the case of Nicaragua, because the government, they chose the nephrology field, the kidney medicine and kidney doctors specifically from their own. So I think they are very interested in the kidney disease. So during the interaction, I have noticed that they are very admire our Taiwanese project program. So I think that they will need a persistent support from the Taiwan, even probably after the project, or hopefully the project will be extended into a second term or even a third term. And at the scale of about 5 to 10 years. And I think that would be more effective because the patients or the country will be more used of the established program. Then in that case, they will not need further assistance from Taiwan, but they can still run that the system at their own. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I think we can wrap up there. Thanks again for joining us on the program, Dr. Hsu Kai-Hsiang of the Far Eastern Memorial Hospital.
Sure. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us for this month's episode of Taiwan is Helping. All of our episodes are available on the ICRT website, as well as on SoundOn and other podcasting platforms.